My name is Alan Pannier, Senior Vice President of Product Strategy at SmithRx, and today we'll be going through the life of a pharmacy claim. Have you ever wondered what happens when you go to the pharmacy and pick up your prescription behind the scenes? If you reflect back to the last time you were at the doctor, you'll remember that they ask, what is your preferred pharmacy? Where would you like to go? And then you respond with the first pharmacy that comes to your head. At that point, the doctor electronically sends that prescription to your pharmacy, and then the processing takes place and begins. From that moment, the prescription goes from the doctor to the pharmacy. The pharmacy then takes that prescription and they take your medical benefit information. So you think of your insurance card, as most people call it. Well, within that insurance card, there's typically a spot in the bottom left-hand side on the back that has your pharmacy benefits information. It's called claims processing information. And there's three main components to that. You can think of it like an address if you were sending a letter to somebody. There's what's called the pharmacy BIN, a PCN, and a group number, as well as your member ID. Those components are what are used to determine the routing of that prescription information from your pharmacy as it's sent electronically to your pharmacy benefit manager. What's super interesting about this process is there's actually even another layer that exists. This is called the switches. These companies kind of sit in between. You can think of them as like the postal service between the routing of these transactions that exist. And so what happens is the pharmacy sends the prescription to a switching entity. Like they then take that processing information that I discussed, and then they route it to the right pharmacy benefit manager, because there's hundreds of pharmacy benefit managers that exist. Once it gets to the pharmacy benefit manager, they then go through a series of rules and processing information to determine, one, what is the cost of the medication going to be for you based on the benefit design that your employer set up? And two, is it safe, and are there any rules that are preventing you from getting that medication? So you can think about, we call them utilization management techniques or programs that exist to ensure appropriate use of medications. And so in some instances, you could be prescribed by your doctor a medication that requires a double check by a clinician. And in this case, it stops for what's called a prior authorization. So as the routing comes, it gets to the pharmacy benefit manager. It's then stopped for a prior authorization, and that information is then sent back to the pharmacy to say, hey, for this particular medication, we need to do a double check and work with the doctor to get some more information prior to us being able to approve it. What's interesting is there's hundreds of rules that the system goes through, but all of this happens in a click of a finger. Instantaneously, in milliseconds, this information is processed and sent from the pharmacy to the switch to the pharmacy benefit manager and then back through, so that you're able to ultimately pick up your prescription. There can be many different outcomes as well. One of the outcomes can be what we call a paid claim, meaning that the transaction goes through, the series of rules are evaluated, there's no issues that are seen, and then back to the pharmacy is provided two pieces of information. One, what is the amount that's going to be paid by the pharmacy benefit manager to the pharmacy? And two, what is the amount that's going to be paid by you, the patient, to the pharmacy? And those two things together should make the pharmacy whole in terms of the payment that they're going to receive. That amount that's paid by you as the patient is actually determined by your plan sponsor or your employer. As you can see, as we review the life cycle of a claim, it can be very complex. And complexity can actually lead to opportunity for legacy pharmacy benefit managers to take advantage and distort the pricing. This typically comes in what's known as spread pricing, where the pharmacy is reimbursed one price from the pharmacy benefit manager. The pricing schemes and dynamics and components go into this black box, and then the pharmacy benefit manager ultimately reimburses the plan sponsor or the payer a price that's differs from what is reimbursed to the pharmacy. This then allows them to keep that difference or spread that happens in between. And this spread can vary. For inexpensive generic drugs, it can be a couple of dollars. For higher cost generics or brand medications, it can be tens of $20. And if you think about adding that up over time, for a typical small to medium-sized employer that has thousands of claims or transactions processing over the course of the year, you can quickly see how this snowballs into huge revenue streams for legacy pharmacy benefit managers, which is why it's very important for truly modern PBMs to operate in a model that is both transparent and pass-through and has an aligned business model where they're not incentivized to keep any margin in between the supply chain or to create a black box where the plan sponsor doesn't know what's happening to their funds. A modern PBM should bring visibility to every step of the process. This visibility and transparency ensures aligned incentives across the ecosystem, while also helping both the patient and the plan sponsor maximize savings and achieve their medication treatments at the lowest cost source of supply.